Welcome to the Corey Shepherd Podcast, episode 19. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. Welcome to all the new listeners. Again, available everywhere, right? Everywhere you listen to podcasts is available. All the old episodes are there. As I tell everybody, the episode's written in ink. So if you miss an episode, just run back to it. You could check it out on the Cadence Club link. I usually send out the episode link. So if you have episode 19 and you're interested in listening to some of the older ones, you could just X off 19 and go back to any of the older ones. Thanks for everybody who's been subscribing. Thanks so much for everybody who joined the mailing list as well. I know I have some things for you, right? I will send out Neola's self-care tool by the time this episode comes out. And if you join and you didn't get it, if you join after I sent it out, just send my email now and let me know you didn't get it. People message me on Facebook. You could message me anywhere. You know where to find me, Facebook or Instagram, or just message me corey.shepherd@gmail.com and I will email it directly to you. I want to say thanks to Neola again for that, for coming on that episode and being so really just gracious and talking through a lot of different ideas with me before we came up with what we wanted to talk about. And I might have underestimated how important that episode was. I mean, I know what the mental health space is, and I feel like locally, I'm not sure how far or how advanced the conversation is home in Trinidad here, but I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm sure a lot of work was happening because I reached out to quite a few counselors and therapists and people doing a lot of work around it. And if I could do anything to shed a light on that, I will. So I will continue to do that. I mean, it was really designed to be around World Mental Health Day, which was the 10th of October. But I'm going to do it more. Neola is gratefully committed to being on more episodes, but I want to open more spaces. I know a lot of people reached out to me for information on how to get to Neola, and but Neola sees women only, just to remind everybody of that. So I'm reaching out to more people all the time to see if I could get more counselors who are seeing a broader group, like people who might see men or families or children or anything like that. And I'll do the same thing. If they're willing to come on and talk about it, I'll have them. If not, and I could just get their information and share it, I will go ahead and do that as well, so that more people could get access to resources they need, because it's clearly needed. If I wasn't sure before, and I wasn't, I really sure now based on the feedback for the episode. So thanks for all the feedback and thanks for all the messages and all the people who wanted to reach out to Neola and so on. Just check her on Instagram, because she has recently put out some dates in terms of how she's working till the end of the year. So you might want to just check her out and make sure that you're inside. And her Instagram, just as a reminder, is Neola_Zama. Zama is Zama. So it's Neola_Zama_. And again, if you join the mailing list, I'll send it directly to you so you could get in contact with her. And basically, any help that you might need and y'all could work it out, I'll be super happy if that gets done. I also working on some people who said that their goal is to provide some free resources in these areas, because some people also reach out to me. It could be, from my own experience, it could be expensive. I know that the therapy that I sought after, I was talking about some of those apps, and for us in Trinidad particularly, it might be different for people who listen abroad. It with the 6-to-1 thing now, that's soon to be 10-to-1. It could be a little expensive seeking that help on some of those apps. So they have some people who trying their best to put a platform in place where people could get free help. So I'll get some information on that, and once I have it, I will share it here and share the information on the mailing list same way, so that is accessible for folks. So I mean, outside of that, and there's something I want to get back to that came up in that conversation with Neola that was completely unplanned and off script. But a part of that conversation we spoke about, I can't remember how it came up, but Neola had started talking about the experience that women have in Trinidad and her own experiences with people who just basically following her, which is still hard for me to wrap my mind around. It's one of the weirder things I've heard. And the way people might be dismissive of a woman, a professional woman. And she was saying that she has instances where a man might come up to her and say, yeah, me and you do the same thing. When they come to find out, they do a 2-week course when she studied up to the master's level. So it was also very interesting for me to see some of the feedback that I got on that episode. Really, more feedback than I ever get on any episode that I've done before. And I want to admit, without putting anybody out there, of course. And I discussed this with Neola as well, that a lot of the messages was about how Neola looking good. You know what I mean? She good looking boy. And I thinking to myself, no, I myself, I'm not trying to say that I am pious or holier than thou, because I trying to put myself in that position. My message to whoever was doing that, if they put it up, would be the same. I'd be like, boy. You know what I mean? And the thing about it is sometimes the subtle ways we act and thing, it opened my eyes as to how it's received, if I could put it that way. So I'm saying again that I don't think, I'm pretty sure that the people who messaging me that they're not disrespectful to women or threatening to women. These is cool, very, very responsible people. I know a lot of them personally. And I don't think anybody mean any harm. But I think it's like we as fellas, we had to check, and I started with me really had to check that, because I would do that. I've done it before, where you see somebody, a woman who's professional, and my lead off is, boy, she looking good, you know what I mean? I don't know, it's just one of them things that men do, and maybe it's subconscious, as a subconscious collective attitude among men, but I had no idea that was how women felt about it, because I remember she was saying that about the guys who say that, they are therapists too. And she asked me the question directly, which she does. Has anybody ever done that to me? And then I had to think first, because I started to think, am I professional enough for anybody to ask me anything? I was wondering about that at first. But my answer was no, because nobody has really ever come to me and say, hey, yo, you study XYZ, I do that too. And they do a 2-week course. But more than that, right? I don't think I care, to be honest. If a woman come and tell me that, or a man come and tell me that, I'll be like, all right, cool. It really would not matter to me at all if you feel like if this, that, or the third about what I do. Another thing that would happen with me is that if I post a picture of myself, let's say a LinkedIn picture, right? Forget podcasts and Instagram and them things. If I post a LinkedIn picture of myself where work concerned or lecturing or anything that I do, and a woman first comment to me is, good, he looking good, boy. So that not going to bother me in the least bit. I don't feel like it's threatening or disrespectful or anything. I might be kind of glad if I'm still in the game and somebody tell me I look good looking, I might feel kind of good about it. So I think it's for me to start looking at now, it doesn't matter how I feel, if that's the way women feel, if they feel marginalized or diminished in some way by comments like those, that while we sending them out in a harmless way, they might be received in a way that is, I'm not even sure. I'll probably talk to Neola about this again, because I myself don't understand if the feeling is threatening or diminishing or what it is. So I'll probably add that back to the next conversation that we have, because I need to learn a little more about it. And fellas, don't feel no way. Me and tell Neola, I ain't going to tell nobody this person say thing, me, you know what I mean? And the only thing, I in the same boat. So I just trying to learn and understand better, so that I could adjust the way I talk and the things that I do and so on, because I don't want to be seen as diminishing nobody. I don't want to be seen as a threat to anybody. But the first step is really to learn what are the do's and don't do's, because I guess it just does not affect men the same way. And like I was saying in that conversation, if you following me in a grocery, you could be man, woman, or child. That not going to bother me. A matter of fact, it might bother me, but I'm going to step to you and I'm going to ask, well, what's going on? I remember going a very popular grocery in Long Circular Mall, among the many groceries that they have. And while I walking through the thing, I realized, but some fellas following me. So my first instinct was, if I walk out this grocery and think I could be getting robbed, because the people literally following me in every aisle. But I guess through my father as a grocery manager, and he was a grocery manager back in the day and them things, and I started to realize, wait, the man is security, is plainclothes men, they feel like I'm the thief. So I was like, hey, soldier, come and see I ain't thief, and come. And they walk through the whole, I guess they feel kind of bad not to, they didn't want to stop following at that point, so they still kind of follow and pretend they're talking and things, but eventually they just put on their basket and went in the next aisle. I was like, yeah, you're cool. Monitor somebody else. I ain't going to thief nothing. But again, for me as a man, it's not threatening, I don't feel any way about it. And I also feel like if from that little bit of conversation we had, I feel like what I might feel threatened by, I think the feeling of being threatened as a man is very, very different to the feeling of being threatened as a woman. And I'm not sounding ignorant as hell here, but the honest truth is that I'm learning and I'm trying to figure this out. Because I have had, and I know many, many men have the same experience, and we had to talk about it too. I've had many, many experiences where women grab and touch me inappropriately and thing. I remember going to a fete boy. And me and Stacey in the fete, me and Stacey, salute Edmund and Vanessa, my friends, they're living abroad now. And they might have been abroad then too, but they used to come home for carnival every year. And we went to a fete boy. I want to say it's Mocha all-inclusive. It had to be like late down in the season because they don't come too early. I think Mocha is have all-inclusive this Sunday. Somebody go correct me. And I was in Mocha all-inclusive, boy. And they had a VIP section. It was one of the worst things I ever seen at a fete. They had a VIP section that was upstairs in the clubhouse. And the VIP people apparently could have come downstairs. Like, I guess any other VIP. They could go anywhere in the fete, but we can't go there where they are. And they were serving the drinks in glasses up in VIP. And two very wise and smart individuals bring their glasses down to go in front of the stage when Marshall was coming on. And when they finished the drink, they rested down on the ground. Now, I don't see it as a major hazard already. So I said, boy, let me pick up them glasses and put them somewhere out of the way where somebody can go cut their foot. And before I could even reach to pick up the glasses, somebody kicked one and it break. So now I hustle. I went and I pick up all the pieces and thing. I put them together and I walk across to the side. Now imagine I have one regular intact glass in one hand and a next glass with broken glass in it in the next hand. And while I walk in, so I disarmed here. I have no arms. I have no hands. Both hands full. And while I walk in through the crowd, boy, I just feel somebody grab me. How to say it, boy, without, like, they grab the frank and the beans, the whole package. They grab the frank and beans, somebody just grab and squeeze and twist. So my first instinct was with the broken glass in their hand. You know what I mean? My first instinct is to swing. Because at that point, I think it's a fella, because, I mean, frank and the beans, if your hand big enough to fucking frank. When I look, it was a woman. She was well, I don't know what to say now. I didn't want to be offensive to nobody, but she was not small. She was plus-sized. Fluffy. What was he good word to use for it? Thick. Wherever she was. And she just basically watched me in a kind of way like, she kind of watched me like because at that point I want to swing. But she watched my kind of way, then she gave me a kind of wink and a kiss. And I was like, my first instinct, to be honest, when I see as a woman was like, why good-looking woman don't do these things in fat, boy? You know, if you go, no nice woman don't do them things. If you're nice and you take a grab, I was like, no, Stacey with it. But the reality is that is real. I mean, I don't even matter to say it's inappropriate. That is like, what's going on with you? And she have a squad of girls, eh? So when she do it now, she squad of girls is like thing, and I was like, what trouble is this, boy? So I go on and I put on the glass and thing, and I ain't tell the woman nothing, but the way I watch her, she know I ain't like that. But again, like I said to you at that time, I did not feel threatened. I was not afraid. And I know she and a squad of girls, they can't do me nothing if I could put it like that. So I went across, I find a spot, I put the glasses and thing where it would be out to anybody, way between some fence and thing. Now, by the time, this is the difference between what happens with men, I suppose, and what Neola was describing. Because by the time I reach the fence and thing, I don't know if it's the liquor, the glass are studying, the fete going on, Marshall coming on. I don't forget his girl already, me and studying, So when I passing back now, me even looking in nobody direction, I just looking to head back and fete. Well, boy, when I passed, the woman grabbed my whole bottom and squeezed. I was like, so at that point, I was like, what's going on with you? And she kind of thing, and I just keep it pressing on. To be honest, I mean, I didn't like it, but it's nothing to me. It's just one of them things. And I mean, I could make joke about it and say if it was a nice woman and all them kind of things, but I could appreciate that is very, very different for men and women. And I guess the only way to learn and is just to air it out and talk about it more. So I intend to have more of those conversations just so that I could get a better understanding of it. And hopefully anybody else listening could get a better understanding of it too. But there's a part of that I want to talk about that I ain't sure how much men go talk about now. So I will fall on the sword for all mankind here. So story time, Corey time, right? Story time. We're talking about women doing inappropriate things to men, right? I gonna talk about the times, and I have some stories, and I'm gonna go through most of these stories, where men put me in uncomfortable situations. What's going chronological order? I have plenty. Some extremely uncomfortable. And listen, my mother is listening to this, so nothing ever happened to me before my mother started to get panicked and things. Let me put that up front. But it went from, like, I guess things where you could question yourself as to if it's inappropriate or not, and things that outright inappropriate, that if I had tell people about them things earlier in my life, it would have get violent. That's how far going with it at that point. So let me go in chronological order, right? Back in the day, now I want to put it out there that I am in a process of evolution, like everybody else, right? But the times I telling you about now, I not evolved. I am blissfully and willfully ignorant, and I didn't care. I didn't intend to evolve anything at this stage in life. So the things I going through at that age, what age I could have been then, boy? I might be, and now started lime and things. So let me say I must be 17, 18 and thing, and lime my boy Pablo. There's Pablo still owing me some podcasts. I only had a Fat Chronicles with Pablo, but don't worry, that will come. But before Fat and thing, I go on a line with Pablo, boy. And Pablo carry me Pelican. Now, anybody who know Pelican, right? If you ain't know Pelican, ask about Pelican. And Pelican is where Carlton Savannah is now, kind of place. You have a pub there and thing. But them days, I not evolved. I not playing certain games. Right? If you ever listen to dancehall, you know the kind of games I ain't playing. So we go on Pelican and I'm uncomfortable and I'm vexed because Pablo bring me a Pelican and I was like, Pablo, we bring me here for this kind of thing. Me and that's I don't play them games. Pablo didn't tell me, boy, you're unsure about yourself. Or it's only if you're unsure about yourself, you can't be wrong. People, boy, lie and enjoy yourself. Nobody not on you. And I remember all that nobody not on me thing. A man passed. No, I tried to keep my back against the wall. I ain't leaning off no wall at all. And my back close up against a wall, boy. And almost as soon as I step forward, a short man come to pass behind me, boy. And listen, short man had to pass behind. So I make space now because he done passing already. So I want distance, social distance, and COVID back then too. And short man hold my waist a kind of way to pass. And I say, but what going on here? Boy, short man holding up my waist a kind of way at a kind of game, a little elbow to create a little space. I say, but what happened, short man? Come now, man. And that was the first time I felt like I started to understand from that age what I was putting women through. Because if I'm being honest, I used to do them same kind of thing. Now again, the man didn't grab me in inappropriate area and thing, but the way you don't have to touch me to pass. You don't have to touch me at all. And then I started to realize that this is the kind of things that I do into women because you're inappropriate and you're sleazy and you're cheesy. That's how I look in the mirror and tell myself, you're inappropriate and you're doing sleazy and cheesy thing. If you and somebody have a spark or attraction or something or know one another, that touch could be nothing. But boy, you see with a stranger and thing, people just pass now. The whole no woman and thing, you have to hold on to nobody and them kind of things. So I learned my lesson then and there. So that was pretty innocuous, right? Because I guess short man, you see the same elbow woman is getting man in fat. You ever see them Instagram videos where woman whining for the camera and thing, and some smart man, it had to be the liquor, because you had to know you're getting blank if that camera on. But some smart man come whining up behind and he get the kind of elbow. Like they're elbowing him to hurt him, it's just to create space. It's just create a little space. And some of the other kind of women will turn around and watch them a kind of way. But I can't even watch short man short. I will go turn around and watch him. I just gave him the little elbow he get at about by his throat, by his chin, he shorter. And he just keep it pushing. He ain't say nothing, me ain't say nothing, and I leave that there. But that teach me a little bit of a lesson. Now, fast forward to a couple years later, them days we had the website, that's me and Hinkson and Osman. We had trinisounds.com. And I think Hinkson always used to be the man who taking pictures in front of the stage, if I remember right. So Hinkson up to now showing Winchester, you see Hinkson and hail him out like big man. That never gonna change. Because Hinkson was the artist man. So when we come back with all the photos, we know we comfortable with Hinkson. Me and Osmond used to work the crowd. So we was in a fete. It wasn't carnival, you know. But it had to be watercolors or something. So in the oval. Yeah, it was in the oval. It had to be a watercolors. I don't remember watercolors, boy. Anyway, that's next story. Watercolors in the oval. So we used to have a problem with water fetes now because we're going with cameras and things in as advanced as they are now. This must be about 2004-5, them kind of days. So we have a little cheap camera and thing. We can't afford to get the camera too wet. So I backstage and I trying to take pictures from through the little, there's a little fence separating backstage from the crowd. In front of the stage, have a little area for media and maybe VIP, and then they have a fence, and then they have the crowd, right? So I work in the crowd, but what I'm trying to do now is come down all the way along the front of the fete by the fence, because I can't get wet there, and like poke my camera through the little space in the fence and take pictures of people who willing. So I used to try to take pictures of people who willing to take pictures, right? I ain't trying to sneak no pictures. So I looking for people to pose, and them days, I mean, we looking for nice one. Once you pose and thing again, pictures, and you know the kind of outfit in watercolors. So I excited. I know the next day when I post that, the website going to real hits. So I take a picture of a woman, boy. I'll never forget that. And she posed and she was nice and thing and everything good. And then a tall man kind of calling me now. So I telling myself, oh God, I tall man woman. So I ain't want no problem. So I started showing him now my little badge. I think we had a badge, had a jersey. Now it louder, so I just showing him the jersey and the thing. And I always used to tell people when we in fetes, and Osman, all of us used to do the same thing. If I take a picture and you don't like it or you're uncomfortable, I would delete it one time. Now, again, this 2004, I had no Instagram, no Facebook, nothing them days. Trini Scene was the people who was the big with that, with the photos. And it didn't have all these fete pictures and things. I mean, Trini Jungle Juice, all them things come out after. And boy, I say, but tall man, no, this is not short man now. A tall man might could take me. I can't fight tall man, but behind a fence, so I'm safe. So I back off the fence now in case he wants a leg or a bottle or something. And I show him the jersey and anything. And he only tell me, come. So after a while, I realized like he ain't getting no horrors. He want to tell me something. Or sometimes people used to want to know what the website is so they could find the pictures and them kind of thing. He with the same woman and now take the picture of it. So I gone by the fence and he talking, but I deaf in one ear, I blind in two eyes. So I trying to hear what this man saying. I can't hear him. So I know how to tiptoe over the fence, tall man over the fence now, and he talking and he trying to say something, but I really can't. Boy, when I catch myself, tall man holding my whole face and my head in his hand like I'm a baby. And tall man is down in my ears, like in my ears. Tall man lips is touching my... And I trying to push off tall man now. Because it take me a while. I thought he just trying to shout and hear what he's saying thing. Or for me to hear what he's saying. But tall man is in my ears and tall man pulling me closer and I had to push off tall man now and fight. Listen, I had to take my strength is what I'm trying to say. It's not like if I just fend him off and thing or gave him the little elbow like short man. This time I using my strength because short man, a little bit again, tall man pull me over the fence and tall man tongue in my ears if I gave him anything again. I know it's how much space between tall man tongue and my ears. And I push it now and this man in and I had to hold his hand and prise it off the side of my face is what I'm telling you. I eventually prise off one hand and kind of push him off because it's like the fence between me and he tall, he had the leverage on me. The man had the drop on me. The man could have taken So I push him off and thing and then but must he cuss twice and thing and he give me a kind of smile and the way he watch me is the same way my girl watch me when she grab the frank and the beans and the feta I kind of wink and I think I said, we're going to tall man boy tall. And I'm looking on the ground now. That used to be my grand charge back in the day. You know? Anybody who know me, anytime I don't like fight, I don't like violence at all. I don't want to fight nobody. But anytime anything go down, the first thing I do is look all on the ground like if I'm looking for a bottle or something. I ain't going to do nobody nothing. But that was my move. So I started to look on the ground and one thing on the ground and the overlay. But it just goes to show, like in that moment, that was different to what happened with short man. Because tall man now, if I had to fight tall man could beat me. I ain't exactly feeling threatened. So I don't want to compare what a woman is feeling to what I was feeling. I more wanted to fight him. Because I find it was real disrespectful and out of time, and like, where you going? And again, I have no kind of evolution in me. I'm not involved on nothing. So, and I had heavy into dancehall. You figure that out. So I ain't having that. And so man trying to put me out there and thing. And that, I mean, that was the end of that. Nothing ever happened because he was behind a fence and I behind a fence. And that was pretty much the end of that story. But again, I started to learn a little more because this wasn't just an inappropriate move or inappropriate touch. This is a full advance, and now you know I'm pushing you off and saying, but you pulling me in closer kind of thing. It's like, well, dude, what's going on with you? Now, I can't imagine what happened to me if I was much smaller and much weaker or more vulnerable in that situation. You make that's what you want, right? But I just telling you what has happened to me. So fast forward again. Fast forward. I'm going to live in Jamaica. Now, again, if you know anything about Jamaica, you know that it ain't much evolving to do than neither. But surprisingly enough, Jamaica, I guess I'm exposed to some things in Jamaica where I might be much more tolerable of than when I was down here. I guess maybe it's not nothing to do with the country now. It's just me getting a little more mature. I mean, and when I say a little more mature, I put it in perspective. I was 26 years old at the time, you know, and I have a little friend, you know, me and a woman friending. But she young, them girls young. Them girls 20 years, 21. And she have her friends. It's the best situation you could ever be in. And at that time, I was just like I is now. I don't want to lime too much and I don't want to go nowhere. And I mean, I am only 26, but at 20, they were real partying every night. And I want to say a little immature. They not in a bad way, but they were just young. So they in for good times, and I have work and I have responsibilities and things. So I not going as hard as them, and I don't want to be around all the other young friends and things neither. But one time I go on a party, boy, and so it's me and my friend and her friend and a fella she kind of dealing with. Now you know how it is when you're in a relationship. Fellas might understand this. Everybody might relate to it. When you're in a relationship with somebody, you just kind of want your somebody to like your friends and their somebody too. You know that kind of way? So that was a situation like that. So me and her together. And me and her friend, cool. But the friend pick up a little boyfriend. He must be 20, 21 too. And the friend want us to meet the boy and like the boy and all this kind of thing. And she looking up to me a kind of way. So I must like the fella. I had to go by this man place and them have a lime and... them lime in Jamaica, them lime in the smoking weed, me smoking nothing. I don't want to go. But I went. And I was kind of glad I went. Because when I went, I realized it's all inclusive. And it's friend with friend and everybody friending. And I kind of say, well, hey, I was going to miss out on this whole barrage of friending happening here. So I in go mode now. I ready. I'm a Hennessy and thing. I charging up. I said, nice. What is this? I'm missing out on all the time. Only now, me I want to initiate nothing because keep in mind that at 26, I was the old man in this thing. Everybody watching me as an old fella. And if you know, by 26, I done lost in here already. I can't see so well and all these things. So they're watching me as a grandpa in the lime. So me I initiating nothing. I just cool. Now the boyfriend, the new guy say, let me play spin the bottle. I say, yes, what? I inside. Spin the bottle. I know where it's going. I say, right, this is going to be great. So he partner now say, now you want to play spin the bottle? We played that last time. I say, but what happened to Sour Man? Boy, Sour Man going to mash up the whole scene. Spin the bottle is it? This is going to go down. The man say, let me play suck and blow. Now, I wonder if people know what suck and blow, boy. They used to play this like back in the day. They had called it something else, but I know it as suck and blow. It's like you take a business card or something and you suck it against your mouth like, so you stay by you and then you pass it on to the next person mouth to mouth. So you had to blow and then they suck and they keep it. And you had to line up in a line. And when you line up in a line now, you pass. So if the card drop, you kiss the person basically, right? If you never play that, play. You know what I mean? Get some people and play it. So I say, well, all right. I say, Sour Man, understand it. I thought Sour Man was mashing up the vibe. Sour Man going to the he not in the sort of spin the bottle thing, wasting a sort of time and truth out there. Sour Man says, suck and blow. Let me go. I say, nice. So I looking to line up next to two strangers. I mean, if I come with you when we playing suck and blow, we don't play in at home already. So I want to line up next to two strangers. So I go on and I fit in myself, but she fit in herself by me. She make sure she did. She ain't playing that game. Now, when suck and blow start now, I so studying which part to fit in between who and who. So she on my left. When I look to my right, it's sour man. Sour man is next to me. No, I really honestly thought, like, you line up yourself and think you ain't really watching what you're doing. So I adjust myself now and I go on between she and the friend now. And I think, so when the thing coming down the line now, watching the thing coming from my left, right? So she on my left, so I watching coming down the line now. I don't know who I between already. Yeah? When we think, and the thing reach by me, when I reach and I turn, sour man still there, and a man next to sour man, the same boyfriend we come to meet, he next to, it's about 5 man going down the line, but I spit out that card, so I vex. I want to fight I just want to fight. Nothing, I want to play it out one time, because there's some bad mind fellas or partners of mine listening to this. I want to put it on record that after I get the card, and I didn't turn all the way, I sit out that card and I say, I want to go. I carry me home. I don't want to kiss someone under no circumstances. I don't want my mouth nowhere with someone's mouth. No, this is not happening tonight. So I come out that line and I listen, ignorant them time, I vex. And I think at that point, party done, because who come with me had to go with me. And if you don't want to go with me, I go in. No, this is why it's always drive to go where I go in. You can imagine I didn't drive. If I didn't drive and I had to stay, I kissing sour man, boy, listen. But that, again, that was real to me. One of them things, just like them other two stories, were just inappropriate. Like, I mean, you didn't even know, you didn't ask me a question to ask me if I in that way, like, but I suppose if I in the party, I wrong, yes, because the party was all inclusive, as I say. But I didn't realize it was all the way inclusive. I thought it was like a semi-inclusive now. Like a drinks included, but you had to buy your food. So that was another one of them stories, and I was real mad. Listen, if it wasn't so much of them, I might have swing on sour man, but they would have beat me. And thing is, rumor they start, if the men had beat me up there, they'd say, I always know Corey was so. That's how people stay. Now fast forward past that now. I come back from Jamaica. And when I reach back here, I spoil bad, because when I was living over there, of course, I had to go and set everything up over there. So I make sure I was like 5 minutes from where my office was. So now when I reach back Trinidad now, and I've gone back St. James where my mother to live, and our office in San Fernando, I don't want to drive down south at all. I guess I'm accustomed to reaching to work in 5 minutes. So my new office used to be Rituals on Sweetbriar Road. Anybody know where, I think it's Ernst and Young there, or Trotters is on the corner. It's just a couple buildings after Trotters. Or they have a big RBC there. In that building was Rahal building. They have a Rituals inside there. Now, when you go in that Rituals, they have a table where you could get a plug for your laptop and internet. This is a big thing. Eh? Back then, that was a big deal. That must be 2009, 10. And it's not like it had no Starbucks them time where you get a plug by every table and things. So I had to reach Rituals early. Them men opening 7, I trying to be there by 8 so I could get that table. Because when you lose that table, you're not getting it back. That was them times. Somebody gonna come there and work the whole day. And I used to sit down there and work for pretty much the whole day. And I mean, like what people do now, I guess. And I go on Rituals, but normal day in my life. I go on a thing and somebody don't take the table. A fella sit down on the laptop and he don't take the table. So I say, you know what? I'm going to sit down on the couch, real close to that laptop, so real close to that table, so that whenever he move, I could jump on that one time. So I have my laptop in my lap, I have a little plug there close by. It's almost like the fella on the table and his back to me. The couch is right behind him. Now keep in mind that I'm fresh back from Jamaica, fresh off the boat. I'm trying to get back accustomed to my routine and thing in Trinidad. And a real business mode. I learned plenty. I spent a couple of years in Jamaica and I grew up plenty in that little couple of years. And everybody is a prospect at this point in time. Anybody who talk to me, I want to be in business mode and see what kind of business we could get. So I sit down there and I'm doing my work and think, me really paying nothing, no mind. And I don't know if I was watching over on the table plenty because I'm trying to gauge when he going and ride out and whatever. I don't know what was going on. But something make him start to talk to me, boy. I can't remember how the conversation start, but I in business. From the time you talk to me, I instant smile, attitude, not that kind of attitude. And I don't snap in my. I feel I should delete that. Why snap my finger for this is not a good look. But I go in and go mode. I'm in business mode and thing. My attitude up, ready to see what kind of business he's doing. Let me get involved. Not like that, right? So the conversation started and we started talking and thing, and it was kind of innocuous. I don't think anything was nothing untoward being said. Let me put it like that. But then he started to ask me if I do lime and thing, and I must even tell him I'll come back from Jamaica, because them days, if you talk to me in 2 minutes, you're gonna find out I used to live in Jamaica. I was proud. So it didn't take any long to find out I was living in Jamaica, and I now reached back. And somehow the conversation reached to like what I do other than work. Now this ain't cue me into nothing, yeah? And I guess I'm talking about this one because this is the closest I ever feel to what Neola was describing about people not, when you're trying to have a professional conversation and somebody talking about other things. So my guy making conversation and I conversating, I fully involved, I talking and I trying to learn about him too, feel him what kind of business he's do and this kind of thing. And it turned to a alignment thing. So he's like, so where's hangout, where's do for thing? Nowhere in my mind I thought it's like when if I talking to a woman and I say, well, where's do for fun? I ain't thinking nothing like that. I still in business mode. I say, well, boy, to be honest with you, I know come back, so I don't really lime nowhere and thing, and you know what I mean? I had to find back myself. I ain't really doing much liming and them things. So, but they have some places that you could go. I could tell you about some places and thing, and I was genuinely interested. I was like, which part? What's swinging these days? He's like, you ever went to Sky Bar or Sky Lounge? No, I don't know. I don't know why Sky Bar or no Sky Lounge. I don't know, genuinely. So I was like, nah, say it happened. Or was he seeing him? Yes, be real good. It's thing, it should come out and thing, you see it. And it could, I say, no, I gone back to business mode and thing. I was like, yeah, but I really had to do more networking. There's a great place to network. They have a lot of businessmen. And I was thinking, what? Businessmen are inside. This is place to go. And he started describing for me where this place is and thing. And then he said, well, it's on R. Peter Avenue. If I know which part Republic Bank is, I say, yeah, I know Republic Bank, man. He said, right, you know where the gyro people are and them things and me Asia. I said, right, yeah, it's our club open there because, I mean, I had no stumbling and them things had open eventually. But he's like, I was like, that's spot, yeah, it's a spot there. It's be real good. It's up on the 3rd floor opposite Republic Bank. No, I laugh for people who might know. This Sky place was a gay bar up there. Well, I'm saying gay bar, but I don't know. It was reputed to be a gay bar. I don't know if that is true or not. I've never been. So now I started, it's a hard reverse. I started, well, no, God, not like that. I started, back out. I started trying to find my way out of this conversation now because, and it's not like if again, I evolved. So I saw like my whole vibe changed. I was like, what the hell is this, boy? This man outright tracking me in these streets public. So I sit back down and I started doing my work and them kind of thing. And but I think he says something. Maybe, I can't remember if it was I who figured out that it was a gay bar or he said something. I want to believe he says something. He kind of say, it's for guys who into guys and that kind of thing. And he asked me outright, so you're into that kind of thing? And I say, boy, to tell you the truth, no. He says, so you wouldn't go to a place like that? I say, boy, to tell you the truth, no. And I kind of slack off the conversation at that point as one word answer. And listen, boy, here now, if I don't know if this experience unique to me or if other men relating to what I'm saying, but this is what I mean when I talk about like feeling like how you would think a woman feeling. Because you ever talking to a woman and thing going right and she just hitting the one word and the cold shoulder. This how I is in this moment, and I was like, yeah, okay. Well, I'm just trying to get some stuff done here. And I'm trying to use all my exit lines to let this man know this conversation is over. So the conversation ended up dying down and I started to type hard. I type in, here now, I want to kill all them keys on my laptop because I want it to be so known that I work in it. I type in hard. And homie decide he need to stretch. Now again, he on the seat on the table, so he's sitting up high and I down low on a couch right behind this man. Dread. This man stretched back his arms across my whole face, between my face and my laptop. My guy arms and he whole head. Him, oh God, this cold weather. I say, but what do you, this man time of cold, listen, I started to get ignorant one time about cold weather. Before I could even say, because once I push away your hand now, you can't put your hand in my face. I don't care if it's gay, straight or thick. Don't put your hand in my face at no point. No man. When I do so now, before I could say anything, when I watch the man laptop, when I watch the man laptop screen, is a whole bareback man lean back on the next man. You know, it's a whole gay porn scene the man have playing on video. I say, my boy. You had to no, they can't lean up here. At that point, I just pick up my laptop and think I went on the table with no current. I unplug, if you see how hard I unplug, I could have mash up my little Dell cord. I pull it from, I didn't want to reach too close because the plug kind of under the table by here. I am bending down and pick up no plug. I yank it out from the cord. And I go on the next side. I still have my laptop there if it. And he eventually, he didn't say nothing. He ride out after a few minutes. I get my table and that was it. But again, it's like, I still don't feel any of that could be compared to women or what women go through. But it kind of gives you a little bit of a glimpse into some of the things we might do. That, because I can't really say honestly that I never invade a woman's personal space. Who me and them are like just basically tracking or whatever you want to call it, or just meeting or getting to know. I've invaded your space, like come too close or want to talk down in the ears and all them things. And let me talk for myself. I feeling like it's advances and it's trying and it's talking and getting to know. But when you're on the receiving end, and I know much men go admit that it was on the receiving end, it's only giving to. I know if only go admit that, but it's an uncomfortable thing. I guess the biggest difference is the fear and thing associated with it. And I have a few more stories to tell. I feel like I need maybe I need Neola to come back to talk about some of them stories. I don't want to put nobody in no problems and thing, So when I'm telling certain stories, let me keep the professionals around so that they could, as therapists like to say, they could help. So I don't know how we reach quite it. That's 45 minutes. We ain't talk about nothing yet. That's sort of thing in the news to talk about, and then we going down a whole rabbit hole of nothing to do with nothing. So let me start with this, right? I talked about mental health last week, and I think like my mental health take a blow this week when I read that the WHO has come out and say that locking down is not a good response to COVID. According to ABC News and everywhere in the news this week, the World Health Organization's special envoy put a statement saying, we in the WHO do not advocate lockdowns as the primary means of control of this virus. Statement is from Dr. David Nabarro. You'd have heard that name many, many times before in terms of what WHO was putting out for us to do as a response to COVID. It has also prompted questions about whether the WHO has backflipped on its advice months after the pandemic was declared. Now, the reality is that they were the ones who were telling people, and let me talk for Trinidad in particular. Dr. Rowley and Terence Dialsing and Dr. Nandram, Dr. Hines, and the CMO, Dr. Parasram, have always stated through this whole thing that they're being guided by the WHO, which in my very, very humble opinion, that is the best thing to do. If there's the World Health Organization and they're responsible and they've been looking into pandemics and what are the possibilities of them and how we should respond, I would think, according to Rowlers, the man said he had experience where he was a geologist and he was advising the government on how they should respond to a volcano threat. So he on the next side now where he's the prime minister and he responding to the experts. It makes perfect sense to me. Now, when all they come and say that, now, a lot of leeway have to be given if you ask me, because this is what they call a novel coronavirus. It's new, it's different. Nobody seemed to know how to respond to this thing at all. But let me tell you where they get my mental health a little shakier and they started to get my anxiety up and whatever them other words is that I started to feel this week. The call for lockdowns, to me, my first reaction is business going to real suffer. And when businesses real suffer, the entire system suffers. Because when businesses suffer, tax collection going to get lower, tax revenue going to get lower. So all public services, especially in a country like Trinidad where it's so dependent on public spending, right? So the government revenue going to go down. It's not very easy for the government to do what businesses could do and say, well, okay, we could take a salary cut, we could do salary cuts, we could do furloughs, we could do retrenchments, we could reorganize, we could sell different things in the business, adjust. I was talking to some people the other day about two people who used to work by us who I feel very, very proud to see when they left our company. One of them is Kelly Atanas. He started his own catering company called Grill Peppers. And Kelly was always into cooking and that kind of thing. He was always that kind of chef guy. And when he left, he started that, and he's been doing that since. And he's one of the first men I think about in this pandemic. I study, I say, oh God, boy, I wonder how Kelly going, boy, because catering would be one of the businesses that take a big hit. Only to see Kelly maybe a month or so ago launch a new business called Chef by Chef Lee's, where he coming home and bring all his equipment. You don't have to provide nothing. Kelly coming home and make a romantic dinner home for you, or any kind of dinner. Birthday dinner, romantic dinner, business celebration. So I say, but this is amazing that he could just pivot and come with a new idea. And the nice thing about the idea I like a lot is that could be a business even when COVID done and things free up. Grill Peppers will catch back up in terms of catering and events and those things. But Chef by Chef Lee is going to still continue because I never thought I could afford a chef to come home here and cook for us and create a dinner. I would have never thought that's something I could afford. But Chef by Chef Lee is making it happen. Another one of them is a colleague with us who used to work with us called Ginger. She's do Ginger wire bras. People might know her. She's do wire bras for all the carnivals. So I started studying. I said, oh God, boy, go be rough on Ginger because she's doing that for carnival, for all carnivals all over the world. Every one of them start canceling. It's like, what are you going to do? And she start doing masks and, you know what I mean? She creative and she make it happen. And she doing some see-through masks and stuff, and it happening. So, and I mean, all of us have stories like that and see businesses adjust and do delivery and start to take online payments, and a myriad of different types of businesses pop up. But the government don't really work that way. It's not like the public sector could decide, hey, we're going to do something else now. It's hard. It's bureaucracy. It's take a lot of time to turn around. On the flip side of that too, when employees start losing their jobs, it's creating social strife. So I see this week, they're talking about people breaking in people's homes again and kicking in people's door. And coincidentally, right in the area where I live in, a man come in and break in the people's place and take their jewelry and these things. And how that could be comfortable. I am all uneasy and uncomfortable now with what happened. I've always thought we in a secure area and these things, but you never know. My father tell me somebody close to by him too, he living in a pretty secure area too. Kicking the man down and the man home. The one by us here, the people weren't home. So he planned his thing. He probably watching the place. And if, you know, that's work. If they're watching that place, they probably watching plenty places around here. So who's to say they're not watching by me and they come in to kick in my door one day? I don't have nothing, eh? I just put it out there. But the other one down by Daddy, they went in the guy house and he was home. And he had to figure out thing and think quick and get him some money. And luckily they have a security response and all that. So when I saw the lockdowns happen, especially for us when they did a lockdown. If it wasn't March, it was April, where everything was closed and police was stopping you when you're on the road. I had to have a letter saying why you're on the road as an essential service, and I had to go to work and thing. And they closed down schools and they closed down thing and they canceled carnival. All those, I'm not sure who in the WHO is surprised by the major economic fallout that they have in. And I seen them quoting figures that basically saying, I'm taking this directly from the World Bank page. They say global extreme poverty is expected to rise in 2020 for the first time in over 20 years as the disruption of COVID-19 pandemic compounds the forces of conflict and climate change, which were already slowing poverty reduction progress, the World Bank said today. And the headline of the article says COVID-19 to add as many as 150 million extreme poor by 2021. So when I hear the WHO coming out and saying this, like, hey, we shouldn't lock down because it's causing poverty to triple and it putting people, I'm thinking, well, what you thought was going to happen? I don't understand. The public sector and the private sector is two different animals. The private sector is going to respond and respond very, very quickly because business is in pain. I could tell you. Our business lose major contracts or get major contracts reduced during this time because so much of our business is people related. And what we going to do at that point? We had to adjust. We had to adjust the cost to meet the revenue that we could make. And so many other businesses went through that. Employees in pain. Talk to anybody. Talk to any random person. Number one, a bunch of us do a deferral on mortgages and on credit card payments and on car payments and any other loans we have. Most of the people in the middle class will offer that I don't even know what to call it, an overture by the banks to say that they could stop paying your mortgage for 3 months. Keep in mind that mortgage interest calculating, credit card interest calculating, whatever the loan is, the interest never stops calculating if you don't pay it. So some of us trying to figure out how to pay it without having to defer. Some of us defer and catch back up with some other things and fill some holes somewhere. But ask around, ask how much people take salary cuts or who get furlough or who get laid off, or who get dismissed completely and still waiting on retrenchment money or waiting on what the government had promised in terms of unemployment relief and a SME relief and a creative people relief because the creative people are in pain. I see Doggy Slaughter put out something this week. Again, we saw what happened in Errol last week. People didn't like that too much. But Doggy Slaughter came out and put out something for blacks. So apparently blacks had some form of surgery, I believe it's to do with his kidney, and he in recovery, and the man needs support. So, I mean, again, just check Doggy Slaughter Instagram page, and the information is there. If you could help blacks is a legend in our music. Again, I put in him just where I put Errol. The things that blacks do for us, I feel like we're all indebted to blacks, especially me. And, if we could do something for him, do something for him. Don't vex because he asking for help. Well, if you could do something for him, do something for him, you know what I mean? And see how we could help. Because a lot of these artists with a whole carnival, well, not all carnival happen, right? But understand that when a man sing a hit, he usually could tour on that song for the whole year. But if you remember, after Trinidad Carnival, everything come and cancel after that. Cancel completely. So Jamaica come and say they're not having no carnival. Crop Over come and say that was it. So many of those festivals are Caribana. Miami Carnival do a virtual thing that was nice. I hope artists were able to get paid and make some money off of that. That's kind of like now. New York is a whole different. New York is its own world, right? Everybody in New York doing whatever they feel to do. Florida is its own world. People doing what they want to do there. But with the borders closed, it's not even like you could book an artist to come and do something. I guess they could do some virtual stuff or whatever it is. It seems as though DJs and thing in New York, from what I see a video last night, Major Hype and Steely Bashment and them having a time in a full party. Drinking, hugging up, no mask. So I guess they have it figured out that or enough people get it where they have some kind of herd immunity like what was happening in Sweden. But I think artists and creative people and promoters and things, they're in pain. What I don't know what we... Boy, that WHO thing really threw me off, boy, because I don't know if there was a better way to say that or something, or just come out and say, but boy, I learned something in school. They used to call institutional reflexivity, and this is the best case I ever see, where an institution could basically come out and say something based on the knowledge and information that they have now, but as more knowledge and information come to the table, they could switch what they say the opposite, and there's very little consequence in terms of, it's not like you could sue them and say, well, I locked down and I lost business and I'll take all their advice as a country. You can't do it. Remember, like I went to school and had Carib and Arawak, and then eventually somebody told me something about Taino and Kalinago. I confused like hell. I remember I went to school, Pluto was a planet, then they say Pluto ain't so much no planet no more, and all that is institutional reflexivity. Them institutions could say things and then change on it, but I ain't lying. Boy, it threw me for a loop because it was kind of like, for real? So we went through all this based on your advice, and now we're here. 100 and something million more going to be poor based on your advice, and that's just it. Oh, you don't lock down no more. And then the thing is, like, if you say don't lock down no more, and I heard Terence Yeltsin say he had to look into it and those things, because I expect that if you all are following WHO all the time, the next step is to open the place back up. And I've been saying for a while now, listen, you see, I can't go over the bringing nationals back home thing again. I can't talk about that no more. You know how I feel about that already. But I study in Caribbean Airlines, boy. Caribbean Airlines just grounded. I mean, they're doing some work through the Caribbean now, thank God, but we outside the Caribbean bubble. But that the airport just there, that cabby ride one. I don't know how to balance this between the loss of life and the loss of business. But the way I see it is that everywhere locked down and we still lost, I think it's 81 or 82 people. Is it that they're telling me that if we wasn't locked down, we'd have lost like tons more? I don't know. And I don't even know if there's a fair way to look at it. I would not like to be in the seat of the decision makers now, because it's a real hard trade-off to say I lost 82. One more would have been too much. But the thing about it is, again, it put me in a position beyond just being frustrated by the whole COVID thing and then hearing this news. It put me in a position where I had to call my partner Brian Hieroman from Brian Hieroman podcast, and maybe this man was right all the time. He been saying the WHO is a waste of time and we shouldn't listen to them. And I don't like to admit Brian right, and I have a real problem when Brian right. All are we going wrong? If you ask me. So now it making me have to go back to some of Brian old episodes and hear what was his take on WHO, because I could tell you from now, he was always against this idea of a lockdown and stopping the economy for everything. And I mean, his and I don't know if this is true or not, but his take is like, hey, the COVID is another version, a little worse version of the flu and this kind of thing. I don't want to go along with that yet, but I would hate for 6 months down the road for the WHO to say, you know, this was just really a bad flu. Everybody going to be good. And listen, then I got to admit I was wrong to Brian again. But it's a strange time when you could just come out and say, this is where it is. When I see so much stores closing Trinity Mall due to the same lockdown, I see Prestige Holdings shares who own KFC and Subway and TGI Fridays and Pizza Hut and what else I'm missing? Starbucks. Their shares way down from where they were. They were doing good as a company. They come out and say, hey, this ain't so great no more, you know. Largely because restaurants could have opened, and then they could have opened for takeouts alone. Then they had to close fully. If I remember right, it was a full month. That is ludicrous. And then now we're going back to a place where it had opened back, where you could have gone by some in a restaurant and sit down and eat. And now we're back at a place where you could only go takeout. Now again, it's business, and you're responsible for your own business. I ain't trying to take that off the shoulders of business people. We choose to be in business and we had to figure out how to survive. But it always like I always think of small businesses. Like there's a place in Kunupia I go called Vanilla Bean Cafe. I like to go there. The internet is work, the plugs working, nobody leaning back on me and all these things. And the food good. And I remember seeing them during the delivery. No, the part where you could do the takeout. They never did deliveries, I don't think. But eventually they said, boy, listen, the delivery thing is so, is not the delivery. The takeout thing is hard to do for whatever reason. I can't remember how they put it, but they eventually closed even when they could have done takeout. Now I started to get frightened because I said, boy, I wonder if they're closing down. And about a week after, you could have come back and eat, so they had opened it back up. But now they're doing the takeout thing again. And I'm thinking, like, if this is the case and we're following WHO advice, I kind of feel like they need to address the nation tomorrow and deal with this lockdown thing where you can't go on the beach, you can't go here, bars can't have no people, and boy. And then on top of that, like, I just read Movie Town in Shoguna's closing, like permanently closing down. And he basically said COVID and he said he kind of saying like the landlord wasn't very reasonable. It was hard dealing with the landlord. I suppose that means that they're looking for concessions and pricing and those types of things, or rent, and they're not getting it. And when last he was able to operate, so you think about that, like during this lockdown time, when we start in March, when last were they able to sell cinema tickets to sustain their business? How boy, I don't know. I know the answers. I just ask any questions. I'm not sure where we're going from here, but I would love to. I can't miss that press conference tomorrow because I wanna see if there's any change in the way we're doing it now. Because this is 10 people here and 25 people, so and you can't go by a bar and drink, and a lot of small businesses will be feeling some pain. They have a lot of businesses that spawn out of this too, because people bringing food home by like normal, everybody delivering and thing, which is good. And I suppose a lot of that will continue, but it will be interesting to see where we go from here. Now, in that press conference tomorrow, one of the other things that just pop up this week all of a sudden, I don't know where the conversation stemmed from. I suppose it was the budget when my boy Imbert come out and say limited amount of cars coming in as a means of curbing the foreign exchange outflow. And maybe they shouldn't announce that at all. Maybe they should keep that for the mid-year review, because people immediately, almost while the budget was going on, a bunch of letters from Ministry of Works and Transport came out showing all the ministers and how much vehicles they bought over the years and how much of them buy every 2 years, because they entitled to a concession on vehicles where they're not going to pay the duties and VAT and all that coming in on the vehicle. And if you ever see the prices of cars advertised abroad and you see what we pay here, so sometimes you see a car advertised for 12, 15,000 US dollars. And by the time it reach here, you're paying 200 and something thousand dollars. It feels like who making all this money? But the dealer's making some money, yes. But a big part of it is because of the taxes based on the engine size, and then you have duties, and then you have VAT and all that coming in before you could get a price on it and before the dealer could make money, foreign use or otherwise. So it didn't go down too well, boy. People didn't like it. Everybody was upset. And they started put who buying Porsche, and a revolving argument starts about a Prado being more expensive than a Porsche. And apparently it's true. They say there are some Prado is 900,000 and up to 1.2, 1.3 million. And apparently the Porsche Macan is, I see Inchan Ishmael say a Porsche Macan is cheaper than I don't think he should have used cheaper, because I think he was saying it's 700 and something thousand. Maybe he should have said less expensive. I mean, his words and his optics, but oh God. So people was real upset about that. And the truth is, with me, I don't know how I feel about it. I was in a long argument with some partners about this the other day. And I can't remember how we got to that. But we had an argument about that. And the argument is always that Colin Burt asking me to take cuts on heating and he don't pay for gas. So that's true, right? But the reality is this. The Minister of Finance is not Colin Burt. The Minister of Finance is the Minister of Finance. It just so happened that Colin Burt sitting in that seat now. So what Colin Burt is entitled to is not different from what any other Minister of Finance was entitled to, bar salary increases and all those things over the years, right? And what any minister or any MP is entitled to now is not different from what any minister or MP was entitled to before, bar any increases and all those things. So my thing when I see them things circulated is, why people surprised about this? This has been happening for a long time. And of course, very, very quickly when that starts circulating, another thing come out with the opposition on how many cars they buy. I don't know if people they're forgetting, because this was a major issue with Vasant Bharat, where he had the ministry vehicle was a Prado, and he went and buy Porsche. I think it was more than one too. He went and buy 2 Porsches that was going to be used by the ministry. And I mean, those things, and every one of them bought cars for their personal use. And most of them bought multiple vehicles. So I saw that start circulating as well over the 5 years. And I guess the argument is who buy more, because some people say, yes, you buy and you get a concession, but why you had to buy every 2 years? Because I've been hearing for a long time that a lot of times them men bringing in vehicles that they're not keeping. So they might bring in a Range Rover. I remember hearing this about Ananram Logan back then, that they bring in Autobiography. That's the first time I know the name Autobiography. I don't know nothing about this car. I know about Civic and Lancer and these things. So when they say Autobiography, and me and know the next one name, and there was a whole thing about it where he was bringing it in with his concession, and then apparently, I don't want to make no false accusations, especially when it comes to lawyers, no? But if I remember the issue right, it was that the vehicle wasn't brought in for him. That might have been the accusation, allegedly, as my boy Ian Allen say. And it means that if you bring in a Range Rover that valued at 1.5 million, but because of your discounts and your so-and-so concession and these things, you get it for 850. You could make a nice little spread on that. You could save a man 200,000 and still make 500,000 for yourself. It ain't bad. So that has been something that's going around for a long time. And I mean, my take on it is this. If the people are in that position and those are entitlements of the position, what we should be questioning is the entitlement and not the people. The people, and if I in a job and I supposed to get a lunch allowance every day, I want my lunch allowance every day. And that is the reality of human beings. You remember Adam Smith used to say we're greedy, insatiable, unsatisfiable. That's how we are. So when you go for a job and you see things, all of we just skip all the thing and the KPIs and all them things, and I go into the compensation part and I read in, all right, I had this to get, I had that to get, I had this. After 3 years, the company vehicle is supposed to transfer for me at $1. I want the vehicle for $1 and I want to only buy back a vehicle for me in the next 3 years. Or if you only give me back the vehicle, I want the cash value of what you're supposed to give me. Because if you don't give me the car, you're supposed to give me the $5,000 a month. All of us ask for every cent in our compensation package. I don't see why politicians should be any different. Now, I don't really like politicians too much, so I don't like when I'm in a position where I have to defend no politician. It is not comfortable for me. I feel like the WHO where I just take a bow turn. But the reality is this. Everything that they're entitled to in their pay package, just like any other citizen, under any circumstances, they are going to ask for all of it. So if you have an issue with politicians getting vehicle concessions, I think that is the issue we should be addressing. Now, so forget the individuals, right? Let me talk concession. If the issue is them getting a concession, and we ain't talking COVID yet, right? We're talking about COVID after. If the issue is them getting a concession, my question to people who are against it is why? Why is there an issue with the perks that people have to do a job? If the perks is that they're getting something tax-free or they get some benefit or so, why is that an issue? And do we have any other problems with any of the other perks that they get? Do we have a problem with the fact that they get housing? They might get a vehicle to use from the ministry. I don't know if they get food or what kind of thing, or if they have health benefits. Do we have issues with all the things they get, or is just the car thing we have an issue with because of something that was read in the budget? Because I'm not sure that we had this big loud issue with it 2 weeks before the budget. I wasn't seeing anything about it on social media, but I guess the question is, he asking the population to do things that they're not affected by. Now, my partner Juan, and Juan is always say he voting for ketchup 1 year, and then he voting for mustard the next year. That is his philosophy. And it's starting to make some sense to me, because his philosophy is that when you stay in power for too long, you get too distant from the people and you can't understand the issues the people having. So what he's saying is you need to sit down as Minister of Finance for 5 years and then go in the opposition, and you can't drive on the bus route. You have to sit down in traffic. You have no police thing. You have to face all the potholes. You have to face all the issues that the population facing. I think it have a little bit of merit in it. Although these people, I mean, most of the people who in governance in this country, wealthy enough, they don't have to go in the public hospital and those types of things. I don't think much of that happening at all. So when you hear people who's legends to me like Sprangalang and Blacks had to go in the public hospital, the politicians typically don't. They go private or abroad. So the bigger boys go abroad, the smallest ones, they go private. But anyway, neither here nor there. But the reality is that if we ever issue the compensation package of politicians, we had to watch the compensation package of politicians. And this is something I talked about on an earlier podcast, and I'm glad we have an opportunity to come back to it. Because to look at one isolated part, because you could compare yourself based on what you're paying for gas and what you paying to bring in a vehicle and what they paying, and it seems obscene that they could bring in 3 Porsche in 5 years, right? It reminds me of my partner Gray. My partner Gray tell me, do not try to compare yourself to Dr. Dre's wife when she asked for $2 million. Gray say she not wearing ordinary threads. She wearing fine linens. I can't forget our conversation, although she lost the $2 million thing, but she going to get well compensated in that divorce. So I can't compare myself. I can't buy a car every 3 years or every 2 years, and I don't have any concession or anything. And I can't compare myself to that, because the thing about it is when these politicians in opposition and they don't, let's assume that if you lost the election, you're done, right? Like, who might be an example? Vasan Bharat. I think he's totally out. He's still not looking for no land. It's not like if while he was in power, he buying Porsche and Rolls Royce and them thing, and then when he come out, he looking for a Tida to buy. It's not like that at all. Their lifestyle very, very different to mine. So I worry about how I compare myself to them. But let us look at the whole compensation package for a second now. The whole compensation package includes whatever salary and the benefits, which include the car, what you call it now? Concession? Yeah, the car concession. Now, when I look at what a politician's salary is, let me look at some of them, right? Let me look at the boss first. The boss is making just under $60,000 a month. The boss, the king. When you get elected as prime minister of our country, I think in 2015 or so, it moved from 48,000 to 59,000. Let me call that 60,000. That's salary, right? I'm sure they have other perks, including the vehicle allowance thing, right? Now, again, to compare what I make to what the prime minister make, it ain't gonna make sense. And I can't put myself in his shoes. But that's where anybody who is prime minister, so in other words, if Kamala had win, this is what she would have begun. This is not a Rowley salary, yeah? That is a prime minister salary. Just to give you a few others, the cabinet ministers. Where the MPs, boy? Attorney General. The Attorney General is at 41,000. He was at 33,000 before. Ministers in cabinet, 41,000. Same thing as the Attorney General. Non-cabinet ministers, 33,000. I'm looking for the part with the opposition, because the opposition was ridiculous. The opposition was, I don't want to lie now, I think it was 20-something thousand. Yeah, opposition, the leader of the opposition will go from 23,800 to 29,590. Call that 26,000. So just to give you an idea, right? So let me round off some numbers and make it simple. Let me say the opposition making about 30,000, the prime minister making about 60, and then any MP or parliamentarian and them people, they're making, let me call that 40 to round it off. Now the numbers tend to sound a little big, like you're making big money, right? And the question might be, if you're done making that kind of money already, why you don't go and buy your own Porsche? Well, one of the issues is this. Number one, I do not like the idea at all of an elected representative being given a ministerial post. I said that before, long before all this came up. Because the job is too hard to do. It is too hard a job when you are area representative and you have to be on the ground understanding what happened in the area, what are the issues that the area would like you to represent them at the level of governance. That is the way I understand it. That is the way I think it should be. So when I see like Brian London had a song, he say, where MP, look him there, where MP. But where? Because we always have the complaint that you don't see a MP. Now, to have to see a MP all the time wouldn't be, you still have the councillors and those things, right? But to not see them for a whole 5 years, Marlene, and then the next time I see you is voting time, that can't be good. Because you're supposed to be there representing our interests as a community, as a region. And that's another thing too, the political lines not always drawn around community lines, because I'm from St. James, I'm not from Port of Spain South. So beyond that, the job of a minister is too hard a job to have anything else to do. Because when you're the Minister of Finance or you're the Minister of Health, I ain't even adding the global pandemic yet. We have all kind of issues in the public and private healthcare system in this country. All sorts of issues with things that we can't get here, that people have to go abroad to get care and so on. Dialysis machines, we don't have enough of that. How you could be that and still represent St. Joseph? I don't feel you could do both. I feel it is unfair to the individual, being the Alsing in this case, or anybody who holds two, and your major players is the ones who hold two, who's be the MPs and get ministerial roles. It is unfair to him. They will burn out. They cannot do a good job. And it is unfair to me, who living in an area and not getting proper representation. I cannot agree with that. It is also unfair for the Prime Minister as an individual to be Prime Minister, Minister of National Security, head of the Security Council. How are you going to do all that? You cannot get enough. How much time you have in a day? None of that can get done. And that's why a lot of things, in my humble opinion, that's why a lot of things in this country tend to suffer. Because everybody, the person who elected end up being everything. And we had prime ministers here before. Anything go wrong in any ministry, them taking over that ministry. It can't work. But a part of the reason is that same 60 and 40 and 30 that I'm telling you about. So let me make a comparison, right? We have a prime minister who making $60,000 a month when they have state companies in this country. For example, places like NIPDEC, places like UDCOT and so on, where the person who is running that organization going to be making $75,000 to $100,000 a month. And I want to believe it closer to the 100 than to the 75. Now, understand that the prime minister is somebody who is going to be meeting with these people regularly. A lot of what he says affects them. I don't want to say they're reporting to him because they're not. But a lot of what he says and the councils that he sits on and the ministry that he sits on and stuff, there's a direct reporting line coming down to them. He had to make decisions on how much subventions these people get and what projects they can't do. But that individual in charge of that company making more money than the prime minister. No, that's just state companies. I read something there where Lee Hunt, who was a minister, confirming that the CEO of TSTT was making $180,000 a month. That is 3 times the amount that the prime minister making. The prime minister who making decisions that affecting the government 49% in TSTT or 51, whichever one it is. I believe it's 49. He making decisions about that. Or imagine you have a minister of who is responsible for communication. What do you have? A minister telecommunication? If you have a minister there, he responsible for TSTT that falling under his purview. But he making $41,000 a month while the CEO who you go and meet with making $180,000 a month. If you feel that shouldn't matter, I'm not sure what to tell you. But if you understand power dynamics and things and in meetings and these types of things, that is an issue for me. I'm not saying that the prime minister should be the highest paid person in the country. I'm just comparing that if you are running TSTT, I want to put it to all that running TSTT, as hard a job as it is, cannot be compared to the difficulty and the hours you have to put in to be the prime minister of our country. It cannot be compared. I don't even think it could be compared to somebody who is a minister, like a minister of finance, a minister of health, a minister of national security. Those are extremely high pressure jobs where you have to see the public still, and them is MP on top of that. Them still have to go and make office hours and come and hear people complain about this, that, and the third. You're in the media every single day. You have to travel. This is the diplomatic role in meetings, in parliamentary and in cabinet meeting. Those things cannot be compared if you ask me. Minister of Sport, $41,000. Remember a fellow named Russell Latapy? $30,000 a month to be the national team football coach. I ain't talking about he's responsible for football as a whole. He's responsible as the coach of the national team, Trinidad and Tobago national men's senior team. $30,000 a month. And the minister of sports, who he had to talk to, making $41,000 TT a month. You remember Kevin Hart, Calder Hart, Jason Hart? What you name? Kevin Hart? Joe Hart? I could never remember this man's name. What was the man's name? Boy, the Hart fella. $20,000 a month as national coach. Minister of Sport, $41,000. Do ask for Ben Hacker. Ben Hacker's salary was quoted at $450,000 TT a month. Again, he's a national coach. You know. He's not responsible for all the youth teams and the women's team and none of that. You know. He's responsible for the national team. And his salary is 400 and something thousand a month, and the minister is 41. Now, again, I'm not saying that no matter what, the minister of sports should be paid higher than everybody in sports, so she should just make Sunil Narayan money. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that the job and the amount of pressure and the amount of work and the amount of hours cannot be compared to a minister. It can't be compared, if you ask me. So that I have an issue with the compensation packages that are paid to the people that we're charging with the responsibility to run this country and govern and make sure that we're here. I ain't even getting into the CJ and them salary. Lawyers making more money than the CJ. Lawyers making more money than the Speaker of the House. If you have a private practice, you ain't leaving that to go and do no work. I guess the power would be or the achievement of the post might attract you to that, but your private practice going to make more money than any one of them positions. So I think it's something that we have to address, because until then, people going to take 3 and 4 vehicles a year, over the 5-year period. And it's almost like that is their way of getting compensated, if I could put it like that. And in terms of how I feel about the vehicle thing, I think that if politicians, I saw somewhere today, I think it was Bahamas, if I'm right, the politicians come out and take a pay cut and thing. And I mean, let me put it this way. It will look real good if the government come out and decide they're taking a pay cut in these COVID times. The optics will be good. It will look like, right, everybody, they care about us. But I want to put it this way, right? And maybe that is the right thing to do, just to show that you're in solidarity with people. But I just want all to understand that that is all it will be. That is just a show. That is inconsequential in the greater scheme of things. Same thing with them couple $100,000 we're looking at for them vehicles. It is inconsequential in the greater scheme of things. Because if all the politicians, let me say MPs making $40,000 a month, if all of them take a pay cut, 41, opposition and thing, it comes up to less than $1.5 million we save every month. That's sounding like a lot of money, but it's really not. It's really not. If public servants take a pay cut of $1,000 a person, it will come up to multiples of that amount. So, I mean, these figures, sometimes we have to look a little deeper and read a little more into situations, because I'm not saying they shouldn't take the pay cut. I think for optics and as a politician, it might be the best thing to do. Do the Jack Warner thing and say you're working for $1. But I just want people to understand, when Jack Warner say he's working for $1 and he wielding the kind of power he have and making the kind of deals he makes, I don't think any of us were fooled and thinking that he took some vow poverty to be a minister. I don't think any of us were fooled by that. I hope I'm not wrong about that. And I just want to make sure that we also not fooled, because I think with the pressure and all this talk and things, somebody going to come out, if it's the prime minister himself or one of them, going to say, we're going to take a 50% pay cut and them kind of things. Just understand that that's not saving the country no money. That's what I'm trying to say. So don't be fooled by political gimmicks like take a pay cut and this and that. And it's neither here nor there. I think if we had to review the idea of vehicles coming in as part of the compensation, because the one argument I could hear for that is there's an outflow of the foreign exchange that you're trying to prevent, but you're spending the same foreign exchange. So cut the vehicle concession or whatever it is, but pay these people. Figure out a compensation package that making some sense, because I talk Latter P and I talk Ting and Ben Hacker and the state boards, but I not talking oil and gas or nothing. No. If you hear some of the salaries and some of the oil and gas companies, including places like the National Gas Company, you might wonder, this is the same man. Rowley had to go and sit down and negotiate with people who's the head of Shell. And it's a whole different ball game in terms of the salaries that they make. And I mean, you mightn't feel that matter in terms of who going into different rooms with different people. And if you don't feel that matter, well, I know what to tell you. Pay them less, I suppose. But as far as I'm concerned, those things need to be addressed. Pay these people enough where they don't have to study bringing in no car. That's a waste of time. They don't have to study. I had to be an MP and a minister. So to make some money, to make enough money, it should not be a consideration. Because remember that I have to give up. If I'm a businessman and I had to go up for a seat, I had to give up my business. I had to sign that over. Granted, I might let my family run it or whatsoever it is. But at the end of the day, asking me to give up plenty. And maybe it's one of the reasons why we're attracting a certain type of person in the politics. Because if you know, I can't leave what I'm doing to go and work for less money or less opportunity to make money. So if you leave it there, you're probably going to attract people who are already looking to see how they could make money otherwise. And they use their power and their influence and their position to make money. And if we're comfortable with that, then that's cool. But if not, we have to get serious about the pay packages that we're doing, and then you can address anything else after that. And if one of them things is removing the vehicle concession, I would like to see where it goes from there. Because the question will always be, all those that benefited before and brought in vehicles and all those types of things, and you stop it now, what happened to the people who now come in and never get a chance to bring in a vehicle? They have to pay the full amount, and are we addressing their salaries or what? All right, so we're talking enough about that. I can't believe I spent a whole time sort of defending politicians. This podcast is going to the dogs. So let me talk about some podcasts that are actually good. Or some content, local content. I like to put a spotlight on local content as much as I could, because it's not just things that I enjoy, but I am surprised by how many people abroad say that they enjoy listening to the podcast because they get, it's a little slice of home. So salute to my sister who always tell me, don't talk about nobody in Maryland. So salute to her and the prayers up for her too. She going on a little journey here. And keep her in all the prayers. I keep her in mind. And I underestimate how important it was to people abroad to hear, I guess, just hear your own accent and get caught up on your own current affairs home here. But I'm definitely not the only avenue where you could do that. There are lots of content going on out there, and I want to talk about something for the women and something for the gents before we go. And ladies first, right? So there's something that I peep. I don't want to say I watch it all the time, right? Because I'm a boy and I can't be admitting to these things in these streets, especially after the first half of this podcast. But Nadia Batson and Miss Alicia, Miss Alicia now? They have a show called Yellow Cow TV on YouTube. It is very funny. And I mean, I'm saying this for women, but men take it into, listen, it is funny. It is funny. Like, let me tell you what I like the most, right? They say it's just two of them sitting down around a table that they're accustomed having conversations on. And the issues are mostly surrounding women's issues, if I could put it like that. And you could hear that they are genuine friends. And they're really just talking about things that they are accustomed talking. And they're talking in the way they're talking. So I think it's nice to see like a different side of artists, if I could put it like that. Like you see them on stage and you see them in the production mode and video mode. But it's nice to hear them just sit down and talk. And they're talking real women issues and a little raw too. But one of the things I like the most, I was going to say, I like to hear Nadia Batson cuss. There's edited out there, so don't worry about the cussing and thing. There's edited out, but it's nice to hear. I think she's been most genuine when she cuss, because when she cuss, it's smooth. You could hear she be cussing. I'm not alone. And some of the topics they talk about is like, for instance, how fast you would give it up as a woman, is flirting, horning. And listen, they get into all of it. And they share their own experiences. They had one episode I enjoyed where if somebody offer you 100,000 to sleep with your partner, listen, you had to listen to it. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much. You had to listen to it because they are very, very funny. And I think real too. A lot of the things they talk about, real genuine. And Miss Alicia have a dry kind of style, which she just likes back. I'll tell you about one episode, right? The last episode I listened to was a simple concept. They say if you're stranded on an island, name 5 things you would want. So I think Nadia says she wants a phone, internet, and went through 5 things that make life a little comfortable. And Miss Alicia with that kind of dry style, she's like, I want a house with a stove in it. It's funny. You had a hate face. Right? Take my word for it. Because she trying to convince everybody that a house with a stove is one thing. But take it in. They're much better at it. Let me not stale out their content. They're much better at it. They're real good. And for the fellas, it have something. I feel some fellas doing something very, very important. And it's a bunch of guys. The name of it is Los Gents. Los Gents TT. You'll find them on YouTube as Los Gents TT. And the name of the show is Sip and Chat. So I don't know any of them. I just get accustomed to the names from seeing them. Like they have Kevin Williams, Aaron Nichols, Karel Basil, Keon Paul. It's a show that it is not, I don't want to call it funny and thing, although they're funny. It's just a bunch of fellas taking a drink and talking to one another. That's how I came across it. Like literally they sit down in a cooler and them fellas had the drinks and they're talking to one another. But what I like about it is they're talking about serious topics in their own way. And I think not just serious topics, but based on where this podcast starts, I feel like spaces like Los Gents are real necessary, where men could talk about to each other and among each other earnestly about the things that men go through and really help us improve the way we act and make this place a safer and better place, not just for us, but for women as well. But also to say that while women have a lot of issues and a lot of things that they go through, men also have it, and a lot of times we don't really talk about any of the issues we're going through. So they had their own episode that spoke about mental health from the standpoint of men and what men go through. They also talk about like stay-at-home dads and single fathers. They get deep into relationships. It's that one man, for some reason, he always want to talk about porn and they don't let the man talk about porn, but I kind of want to hear what the dude had to say. So they should let the man go, Los Gents. Let me hear what he had to say and thing. But They also had a lady on, and she spoke. I believe her name was Nalini. I hope I didn't get her wrong, but she spoke about rape culture. And I mean, I was in a grocery the other day and listening to this thing, and that was another moment for me where I was just in shock about what a lot of the things we take for granted and how simple. Like, she had a plan for every time she leave home in terms of like way of making sure her phone charged so she don't get stranded nowhere without her phone. And I mean, them things sounding simple, but she sounded like she lives in fear all the time. A Trinidadian man, she right down here. And she was Spanish. She has a thick Spanish accent. I don't know if she's Venezuelan or what. But she says, everybody assumes she's Spanish. And when they say you're Spanish, then you're a hoe. You're selling, you're a prostitute, which I can't understand at all with us as men. And I think those guys just have a space where they sharing experiences and want to learn. It's not a preachy kind of show. They're telling you what to do and you should do this, that, and the third. But they're just sharing their own experiences and creating a space for other people to come and share theirs, and just basically trying to do better as men. So I really like that show a lot, and I hope you give it some time and take it in. Both shows are not where am I now? I had an hour and a half. I promise you, neither of them this long, so you would not go through all this, but it's really, really very good shows. So I think I'm going to leave it there for today. This is long. This is an hour and a half. I have some other things to talk about, but we have more episodes to come. So enjoy all week. I'll talk to you all next week.